In the blink of an eye, one man turned the most advanced phone and computer systems in America into his playground. He walked unnoticed into corporate nerve centers, whispered passwords into unsuspecting ears, dialed in from cloned cell phones in hidden motel rooms, and for years, he remained invisible. By February 1995, the FBI stormed his hideout in Raleigh, North Carolina, and finally ended the run of America's most wanted hacker, Kevin Mitnick. This is the story of how a curious teenager became a digital ghost, how he outsmarted the biggest institutions in the country, and how one line of code changed everything. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the extraordinary saga of Kevin Mitnick, from his first curious intrusion into telephone systems to becoming the most wanted hacker in America, and finally to his dramatic capture. In this video, you'll see how he deceived corporations, outwitted the largest agencies, and used social engineering as his weapon. We'll walk through his most audacious hacks, the network of deception he built, the intense manhunt that ended his reign, and uncover 3 powerful cybersecurity lessons you can start using right now. Stay tuned, because by the end you'll see why his story still matters today. Kevin David Mitnick was born on August 6, 1963 in Van Nuys, Los Angeles, California. Growing up in the 1960s and 1970s, as computers and telecommunications were beginning to expand, Mitnick found himself drawn to 2 things: electronics and the hidden rules that governed them. As a child, he collected radios, tinkered with circuits, and found special fascination in how telephone systems worked. Not just how to make calls, but how the networks themselves were built, how signals moved, and how they might be manipulated without being detected. One of his earliest feats came when he was just 12 years old. He asked a bus driver where he could buy a punch machine for a school project, which turned out to be a social engineering gambit. He then collected blank transfer slips from a nearby bus company dumpster and rode the buses around Los Angeles for free. This early episode reveals 2 traits that would define him: a sharp mind for systems and a native confidence in manipulating people. It wasn't just the hardware that intrigued him, it was the human side of the system, how an offhand question could unlock access. During his high school years at James Monroe High in North Hills, Los Angeles, Mitnick became a licensed amateur radio operator, callsign WA6VPS, and began collaborating with other phone freakers, a subculture of young people exploring phone networks for fun and curiosity. In those days, the digital frontier was wide open. Corporate mainframes, telephone switching systems, and university networks lacked the kind of hardened security we expect today. Mitnick's combination of curiosity, technical skill, and bravado allowed him to move through these systems with increasing confidence. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, his targets began to grow bigger. One of his recorded early hacks. At about age 16, he broke into the ARC, a computer at the University of Southern California handling administrative functions, not for profit, but for the challenge of it. What made Mitnick unique, and eventually dangerous, was that he didn't only rely on exploit code or vulnerability scanning. His real weapon was social engineering, calling up a system or a company and convincing someone to hand over access. He realized early that the human link was often the weakest point in the chain. In essence, Kevin Mitnick's origin story is one of a gifted young man exploring the edges of a newly connected world. The rules were still being written. He didn't ask for permission. He asked questions, and sometimes tricked the answer out of people. And so, before the manhunt, before the FBI posters, before the arrest in 1995, there was this curious teenager from Los Angeles who asked, "What happens if I dial this line? What if I pretend to be someone else? What if I can just walk through that system?" That wide-eyed curiosity became boldness. That boldness turned into risk. And that risk eventually triggered a collision between one hacker and the entire enforcement arm of America's federal investigative apparatus. It started one evening in the late 1980s. Mitnick, already familiar with the hum of modems and the inner workings of phone switches, dialed into the computer network of Digital Equipment Corporation, better known as DEC, using a telephone number his friend had passed him. At age 16, he discovered a backdoor into a system called the ARC, used by DEC for research and development. From this one connection, he copied proprietary software, quietly, almost unnoticed. That one intrusion was the seed of a pattern that would repeat again and again. In the early 1990s, Mitnick's targets expanded. He turned his attention to phone companies and large tech firms. He cloned cellular phones, manipulated corporate switching centers, intercepted voicemail systems. One memorable hack: he penetrated systems at Motorola Incorporated and Nokia Corporation. Through social engineering, posing as service technicians, coaxing passwords out of unsuspecting employees, he gained entry into their networks and extracted code that no one had expected to be touched. He masked his tracks by using cloned cell phones, rerouting his calls, hopping from city to city. The FBI technicians tried to trace the dial-in lines, but Mitnick had already vanished to another terminal. Victims began to notice anomalies. Internal voicemail boxes altered, call logs erased, proprietary internal emails vanishing into thin air. One company found that someone had transferred large chunks of source code for their operating system overnight, leaving only ghost traces. Others found that phone bills exploded. Long-distance calls from internal extensions to foreign lines. Investigators realized the scale was more than isolated pranks. The network of hacked systems spanned dozens of companies. Each intrusion left subtle breadcrumbs. Log entries from unknown user IDs, phone numbers that didn't match the terminal, remote modems picked up at odd hours. The pattern emerged. Someone was not only breaking in, but enjoying the chase. Then came the critical moment. On Christmas Day 1994, Mitnick targeted Tsutomu Shimomura, a noted cybersecurity expert. He broke into Shimomura's home system, copied files and left mocking voicemail messages. That hack set off alarm bells. Shimomura began tracing the digital trail, combining telecom data and modem logs. With Shimomura's team analyzing cell tower dumps, phone company call records, and modem access logs, the hunt shifted from "who is doing this?" to "where is he hiding?" It was now clear, Mitnick was not just a hacker. He was a ghost in the system, a master of misdirection. And in that misdirection lay the final clue: a signal from a cellular base station in Raleigh, North Carolina, traced to an apartment complex, a phone line that bore Mitnick's signature pattern. Cloned ID, remote dial-in, late-night sessions. The trap was being set. But before it closed, the mystery deepened. Mitnick evaded capture for months, moving his rig, wiping traces, bouncing between motels and temporary apartments. The FBI's top-like-a-varsity hacker had become one of their most elusive targets. At this stage, every piece of evidence, from call detail records to server logs, painted a picture of someone far beyond the average intruder. He was playing a game where the rules were invisible to most, the stakes were hidden in code, and the only certainty was, he wasn't going to get caught without leaving one final misstep. Kevin Mitnick wasn't your typical hacker. He wasn't chasing millions in Bitcoin or trying to take down the government. His battlefield was human psychology, and his weapon was trust. Long before firewalls and two-factor authentication, Mitnick realized something most hackers still fail to grasp. The easiest system to break isn't a computer. It's a person. He mastered social engineering, the art of manipulating human behavior to extract secrets. Instead of brute-forcing passwords, he would call an employee pretending to be IT support, gain sympathy, and casually ask for access codes. Within minutes, he'd have entry into secure networks, without writing a single line of malicious code. But that was only one layer of his genius. Kevin blended manipulation with deep technical skill. He would clone phone systems, mimic corporate IDs, and use packet sniffers to intercept communications between servers. He even exploited zero-day vulnerabilities, undiscovered flaws that companies didn't yet know existed. Every move was deliberate, almost surgical. When the FBI traced his activity to one location, he would reroute his connection through another, hopping through servers across multiple countries. He changed devices constantly, wiped drives before each move, and left misleading trails to frame others. His obsession wasn't power, it was control. The thrill of outsmarting systems and the people who built them. Investigators later revealed that Mitnick didn't just hack computers. He hacked egos. He studied his targets, what they feared, what they trusted, and what they would never suspect. The deeper they tried to corner him, the smarter his counterattacks became. At one point, he even infiltrated the systems of the cybersecurity expert who was hired to find him. turning the investigation into a digital cat-and-mouse thriller. Experts who studied his techniques later said that Mitnick had something rare, a hacker's logic combined with a magician's misdirection. He could make systems believe lies, machines reveal truths, and people open doors they didn't know they had. And beneath it all was a man who couldn't stop. Not because of greed, but because he had become addicted to the chase, the ultimate psychological puzzle. Each hack wasn't about theft or chaos. It was proof that he could still stay one step ahead of the entire system that wanted him caged. For years, Kevin Mitnick had been a ghost in the system. A digital shadow no one could trace. But every ghost eventually leaves a footprint, and for the FBI, those footprints began to form a pattern. It started quietly. System administrators across major corporations, Motorola, Nokia, Sun Microsystems, began noticing strange logins at odd hours, data disappearing, source codes copied, network logs rewritten. The activity was surgical, too clean to be a rookie, too consistent to be random. Then, the FBI's cybercrime unit caught a break, a faint signal bouncing through a phone network that seemed to originate from Raleigh, North Carolina. But when they raided the supposed location, they found nothing. Just an abandoned building with a phone line still humming. Mitnick had already moved, again. Each trace turned into another dead end. He was always one connection ahead. Every time agents thought they were closing in, Kevin would slip into another network, rewrite his trail, and vanish into digital smoke. Frustration inside the bureau grew. They weren't just chasing a hacker anymore. They were chasing a legend, one who seemed to predict their every move. Some investigators even began to wonder, was he watching them in real time? Then came Tsutomu Shimomura, a brilliant cybersecurity researcher who became Mitnick's accidental nemesis. When Shimomura's own system was breached, he took it personally. Mitnick had made the mistake of hacking the wrong man, someone who not only understood the digital battlefield but could fight back with the same precision. Shimomura joined forces with the FBI, setting up a nationwide digital dragnet. They traced every phone call, every packet, every stray data signal across the U.S. The chase turned into one of the most sophisticated cyber investigations of the 1990s. Meanwhile, Mitnick grew bolder. He began downloading source codes of powerful security programs, including ones that the government itself relied on. For the FBI, this was no longer about a hacker playing games. This was a potential national threat. Every keystroke now mattered. Shimomura traced the origin of Mitnick's activity to a cellular modem signal. It was weak, but consistent, somewhere in Raleigh. This time they moved fast. For days, agents watched the faint signal flicker on and off, narrowing down the source with precision. Then, on February 15, 1995, at 2 a.m., a team surrounded an apartment complex. Inside, Mitnick was still connected, deep into another system. His screen glowed faintly in the dark, packets of stolen data flowing in real time. Agents moved in quietly. The sound of footsteps filled the hallway. When they burst through the door, Kevin barely had time to react. His laptop froze mid-command, the screen still showing a line of stolen source code. After years of digital cat and mouse, the chase was over. He didn't resist. He simply looked at the agents and smiled, almost as if he had known this moment was coming all along. The FBI finally had their man. But as one investigator later said, catching Kevin Mitnick wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning of understanding what he truly exposed, that the weakest link in any system isn't technology. It's trust. When the FBI finally seized Kevin Mitnick's computers, they expected to find chaos. Stolen credit cards, money trails, digital weapons. But what they discovered was far more unsettling. There was no fortune. No attempt to sell stolen data. No black market deals. Instead, his drives were filled with research notes, copied security manuals, and digital blueprints of America's most advanced communication systems. Every file told the same story. This wasn't about profit. It was about mastery, about understanding the invisible web that controlled the world. And then came the biggest twist. As forensic analysts went deeper, they uncovered that many of Mitnick's most famous hacks weren't done for power or destruction, but curiosity. He had penetrated corporations like Nokia, Motorola, and Sun Microsystems just to see if he could. Once inside, he often left quietly, without altering a single line of code. But that wasn't the whole story. Hidden within encrypted directories, investigators found mock surveillance files. Digital folders where Kevin documented the very people investigating him. Emails, internal memos, even recorded phone calls from agents discussing his case. Kevin had been watching them the whole time. While the FBI believed they were tracking him, he was studying their moves, predicting their next step, sometimes days in advance. He didn't just hack networks. He hacked the investigation itself. And perhaps the most chilling revelation of all, he had hacked Tsutomu Shimomura, the cybersecurity expert who helped bring him down. Before Shimomura began tracing him, Mitnick had already infiltrated his system, listening to the man who would later track him across the country. It was a digital duel, one mind against another. A chase within a chase. When the agents confronted him with this evidence, Mitnick simply smirked. "You think I didn't know?" he reportedly said. "I was already inside before you started." The FBI realized something profound that night. The man they had branded America's most wanted hacker hadn't been running blindly. He had orchestrated his own pursuit, turning every trace, every connection, every log file into part of his own defense. And yet, beneath that brilliance was a man consumed by the need to prove he could outsmart the system, even if it meant losing his freedom. That revelation, that Kevin Mitnick wasn't just hacking computers, but human nature itself, redefined how the world saw cybercrime. It wasn't about code or money anymore. It was about control, intellect, and obsession. He hadn't stolen billions. He had stolen something more dangerous. Trust in the safety of the digital world itself. For years, Kevin Mitnick was a ghost. He moved through the digital world like smoke, untraceable, unpredictable, and always one step ahead. He used clone cell phones, fake identities, and countless aliases. Every time the FBI thought they had him pinned, he vanished. But in February 1995, his luck, or brilliance, ran out. The turning point came when Tsutomu Shimomura, a cybersecurity expert and one of the few people capable of matching Mitnick's intellect, joined the chase. Shimomura had a personal reason. Mitnick had broken into his own computer systems, copying files, voicemail recordings, and personal data. It wasn't just a hack anymore. It was personal. Working with the FBI, Shimomura traced Mitnick's digital footprints across countless networks. Then one night a breakthrough, a signal. The hacker's modem activity had been detected coming from an apartment complex in Raleigh, North Carolina. The FBI immediately launched an operation under the cover of darkness. Agents surrounded the building, tracing the phone line that had been used for the dial-up connection. At 2 a.m., February 15, 1995, the signal was confirmed. The FBI moved in. Inside the apartment, the walls were lined with electronics. Multiple computers, phones, floppy disks, and cables running like veins across the room. Mitnick's screens were still glowing. And there he was, sitting quietly at his keyboard. He didn't resist. He didn't run. He simply turned, looked at the agents, and reportedly said, "What took you so long?" After years of digital pursuit, the most wanted hacker in America was finally in custody. But his arrest didn't end the story. It ignited a national media storm. The press branded him the cyber boogeyman, claiming he could launch nuclear missiles by whistling into a payphone. Myths spread faster than truth, that he could start World War III with just a laptop, that no prison could hold him without cutting off all phone access. The reality was different, but no less fascinating. Mitnick was charged with multiple counts of computer and wire fraud. During the trial, prosecutors described his hacks as a national security threat, while his defense argued he was a digital explorer, curious, not criminal. He was denied bail. The judge ruled that Mitnick was so skilled that, if given access to a phone line, he could start a nuclear war by whistling into a modem. It was one of the most extraordinary statements ever made in a courtroom. For nearly 5 years, Kevin Mitnick remained behind bars, much of it in solitary confinement, his access to any technology strictly forbidden. But the story didn't end in prison. When he was released in 2000, the world had changed. The internet was booming. The same system that once hunted him now wanted to learn from him. Kevin Mitnick reinvented himself. Legally, he became a cybersecurity consultant, helping companies protect themselves from the very kinds of attacks he once performed. He launched his own firm, Mitnick Security Consulting, advising corporations, governments, and security agencies worldwide. He also became an author, writing best-selling books like The Art of Deception and Ghost in the Wires, where he shared not only his story but the psychology behind hacking, the art of social engineering. In an unexpected twist, the man once labeled as America's most wanted hacker became one of its most respected cybersecurity experts. But even as he built a new life, the legend of Kevin Mitnick never faded. To some, he remained a symbol of rebellion, the genius who outsmarted the system. To others, a cautionary tale of obsession, ego, and the thin line between curiosity and crime. And in 2023, when the world learned of his passing after a battle with pancreatic cancer, tributes poured in. From cybersecurity professionals, former agents, and even those he once hacked. Kevin Mitnick's legacy wasn't in the chaos he caused, but in what he taught the world. That the most powerful weapon in cyberspace isn't code. It's the human mind. Kevin Mitnick's capture didn't just mark the end of one man's hacking spree. It marked the beginning of a new era in cybersecurity. Before his arrest, few outside the tech community truly understood what a hacker could do. The idea that a single person sitting behind a keyboard could infiltrate corporate giants like Motorola, Nokia, and Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC, seemed impossible. But Mitnick proved it was not only possible, it was terrifyingly easy. His actions exposed a truth that shook the digital world. Technology wasn't the weakest link. People were. Mitnick's success wasn't powered by complex code or military-grade exploits. It was powered by social engineering, manipulating people into revealing information, clicking links, or granting access they shouldn't have. He could convince employees to hand over passwords just by pretending to be an IT technician. That revelation forced companies, governments, and even law enforcement to rethink how they approached digital security. In the years following his conviction, U.S. lawmakers strengthened computer crime legislation, leading to updates in the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, CFAA. Corporations began training their employees on cybersecurity awareness, emphasizing the importance of human vigilance as much as firewalls and encryption. Mitnick's case also inspired the development of penetration testing, the practice of hiring ethical hackers to test a company's defenses before criminals can exploit them. Ironically, the very techniques that once made Kevin a criminal later became the foundation of modern cybersecurity defenses. And his influence didn't stop there. When Kevin Mitnick re-emerged as a consultant, he carried with him a new mission: to turn his mistakes into lessons. He traveled the world speaking at conferences, warning organizations that the greatest threat to your system isn't a hacker. It's the person sitting at your front desk. His story became required reading in cybersecurity programs across universities. His books like The Art of Intrusion and The Art of Deception opened a window into the psychology of hacking, teaching people not just how attacks happen but why they happen. Even law enforcement agencies that once hunted him began studying his methods to improve digital forensics and counter-hacking strategies. Kevin Mitnick, once a fugitive, had unknowingly helped build the very system designed to stop the next generation of hackers. But his impact wasn't limited to cybersecurity professionals. Mitnick's story became a cautionary tale for ordinary internet users, a reminder that curiosity, when left unchecked, can become dangerous. He showed the world that behind every click, every login, and every message, there's a responsibility to protect information, not just for ourselves but for everyone connected to the web. And as technology evolved, from the dawn of email to the rise of social media, smartphones, and AI, the lessons from Mitnick's story only grew more urgent. Every phishing email, every fake link, every data leak, they all trace their roots back to the principles he exposed. That human psychology is the ultimate exploit, and trust is the most valuable currency online. Today, when cybersecurity experts teach about digital awareness, they often say, if you understand Kevin Mitnick, you understand hacking itself. Because his story isn't just about a man who broke into systems. It's about a world that woke up to the cost of digital freedom. Kevin Mitnick forced society to ask one powerful question. If one man could break the system from his bedroom in the 90s, what could billions of connected devices do today? Kevin Mitnick's story isn't just history. It's a warning. Because the same tactics he used in the 1990s are still being used today, just in new and more deceptive ways. The truth is, hackers today don't need to break into your system with brute force. They don't need high-end code or secret government tools. Most of the time, they just need you, your curiosity, your trust, your click. So if Kevin Mitnick's story taught the world one lesson, it's this. The first step to hacking any system is hacking a human being. That's why protecting yourself in today's digital world isn't just about having antivirus software or strong Wi-Fi encryption. It's about developing a hacker's mindset, thinking like the person trying to deceive you. Here's how you can start protecting yourself and your data from the same kind of social engineering that made Kevin Mitnick a legend. Mitnick exploited one universal weakness. People reused passwords everywhere. Today, a single leaked password can unlock your email, social media, bank, and even cloud storage. Use a password manager to create and store strong, random passwords for each account. Never reuse the same password twice. Treat each one like a digital key that opens a different door. Back in the 90s, access relied solely on passwords. But today, you have an extra shield, 2FA. When enabled, even if a hacker steals your password, they can't get in without your phone or verification app. Use authenticator apps like Google Authenticator or Authy instead of SMS when possible. Text-based codes can be intercepted. Kevin Mitnick didn't just hack systems. He hacked people's minds. He'd call employees pretending to be IT staff or email support teams posing as system admins. Modern hackers do the same through fake login pages, urgent messages, and cloned websites. If an email asks you to verify or reset something urgently, pause, check the sender's address, and never click suspicious links. Mitnick often exploited unpatched systems, computers running old versions of software with known flaws. Today, these are called zero-day vulnerabilities, and they're a hacker's goldmine. Turn on automatic updates for your operating system, browser, and apps. Updates don't just add new features, they close doors hackers are already knocking on. A firewall monitors and filters incoming and outgoing traffic, acting as your first line of defense. Combine it with a trusted antivirus and anti-malware program. But remember, no software can save you from poor judgment. Technology can protect you, but awareness empowers you. Mitnick once gathered enough personal information about his targets from public sources to impersonate them convincingly. That same trick is alive today on social media. Every "what's your favorite pet name?" post can be a password recovery question waiting to be exploited. Think before you share. Every photo, birthday post, or vacation update could give away more than you think. Search your own name online. Check what data leaks may have exposed your email or password using tools like haveibeenpawned.com. If you find any breaches, change your passwords immediately. Remember, awareness is your best antivirus. You don't need to be a hacker to defend yourself. You just need to stay informed. Learn how to recognize suspicious links, fake websites, and scam tactics. Follow cybersecurity news and YouTube channels that teach digital safety. In a world that's always connected, education is your most powerful firewall. And maybe that's the real legacy Kevin Mitnick left behind. Not the chaos of his hacks, not the headlines or the chase, but the awareness that every click, every login, every interaction online is a decision. A decision that could keep you safe, or expose everything you've built. So before you log off tonight, remember, lock your accounts. Strengthen your passwords. Think before you click. Because in the digital world Kevin Mitnick helped expose, the smartest person isn't the one who knows how to hack. It's the one who knows how to stay unhackable. And that's how one of the most notorious hackers in internet history was finally brought down. But here's the real question. Was this the end, or just the beginning of something darker? Because shortly after his arrest, investigators discovered traces of the same digital fingerprint appearing in new attacks across Europe and Asia. Could it be a copycat? Or is someone continuing his legacy from the shadows? If this story shocked you, wait until you hear about the hacker who sold stolen FBI data on the dark web for cryptocurrency. and vanished without a trace. Should I cover that one next? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Because here at the Cybercrime chapter, every week we uncover the real stories behind digital crimes, internet mysteries, and the hackers who thought they could never be caught. So, what do you think? Was this hacker a lone wolf, or part of something much bigger? Drop your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next chapter.